Hello, I'm Jacob Adams. I'm a fitness and leadership coach. I help people just like you get to the next level. Today, I want to continue a series called Connecting the Dots. In 2014, I started a newsletter. It was called Connecting the Dots. And I made it to about 16 typed out newsletters. And eventually, as time progressed, I missed a few months and I missed a few newsletters, etc., etc. Eventually, the YouTube channel came out. I really loved that newsletter, and I see that my desire to write is very much present. At the same time, my desire to make videos is very much present. So I wanted to take a moment to combine them and every week bring to you Connecting the Dots. We have a lot to make up, so I will start right where I left off and say Connecting the Dots, Volume 18. So this will be Connecting the Dots, Volume 18. I'll get right into it. One of the things that keeps coming up in my research, in my studies, in what's called the stack in the Warrior's Way, is that life is always happening for you. In 2016, I saw a Netflix documentary with Tony Robbins, and there was this very traumatic case where this woman had been in some part of a cult where she was basically sexually abused, and it was a very sad, traumatic story. I don't know if this is exactly the same story that he said the following, but he helped her deep dive and come to the conclusion that life is always happening for you. And he says, once you discover that, it's game over. As I do the stacks in the Warrior's Way and analyze certain triggers, now, the truth be told, I don't have dramatic triggers every day. As a matter of fact, I have to really dial in and scan my day through any emotional upheavals. I do meditate regularly. I am into positive thinking. I'm very aware of how to control my emotions and stuff like that. Side note, that's part of the issue, is what I'm being told by one of my coaches, that I have suppressed rage, right? In other words, there's suppressed rage. Now, another side note is, this is something that a lot of men do have, is suppressed rage. That's for another story. Maybe I'll get into it here, maybe I won't, who knows. Rewind, going back into the stacks, what's known as analyzing triggers and stuff like that. Well, what I noticed after many triggers, not every trigger, but inconsistent triggers, after you analyze a trigger and look at it in different perspectives, for example, as I've discussed in some videos, like I say, one perspective could be, all right, someone looked at me in a way, and that means that they think they're better than me. That's an example, right? And a lot of us have experienced that moment where we analyze, what did that look mean? Is that person trying to say something with their eyes to me that is negative? Do you think they're better than me? A lot of us have experienced that type of feeling. That is a trigger. Now, in the stack, right, we identify that. We identify the story we're telling ourselves, which in this situation, for example, is this person is trying to tell me that they're better than me or they don't like me. That's the story. We lead our lives telling ourselves little stories. Every situation has a story. It could be like, I eat well, I'm on a good diet. That means that I'm a disciplined person. That's a story. Is a story true? That remains to be analyzed and told and verified by yourself, your inner gut, your soul, your intuition. The kicker is that not every story that we tell ourselves is true. Oftentimes, triggers lead us to tell ourselves stories that are untrue. The stack, which is what I've brought up already, is what we use to analyze the trigger and see it in many different ways. Another way is we flip the script. We say, I looked at that person, I looked at Tony in a negative way, I think I'm better than him. And trying to tell him that I don't like him. That's flipping the script. Another thing that we do is we say something like there's an opposite point of view where it's Tony looked at me positively and he's trying to tell me by that look that we are equal. And then we supply evidence for every single variable. For every single version, we supply evidence. Okay, well, the first one, I felt a certain way. He kind of slanted his eyes, and that means that. What about the second one? Well, maybe I could have, the me version, maybe I could have given him a look as well. The opposite version. Tony did, shake my hand the other day and make me feel pretty welcome as a brother. So we supply evidence for every single version. After we analyze the versions, we say which of these versions is more likely to be true and more likely to help you get what you want and grow. Oftentimes, it's usually not the first one. The first version is the one that triggers us, right? The story that triggers us. So usually, it's not going to be that version. I mean, unless that version is going to help you get what you want. I've never picked the first version yet, to be quite frank. Maybe I thought about it, but it usually is like the desired version, the one I create, or the last version, it's one of the latter versions. So, what does this mean? And what am I getting at? Let's connect the dots. Okay, so the other day, about a month ago, I overstrained my shoulder in doing a 255-pound push jerk. I did get the lift. I did control it. Now, the landing when I stuck the landing on the jerk, my inner knee came in a little bit as well, creating a stress to my ACL. This was not wanted. It was not something that I intended to, but it clearly did impact me. I was tight for a whole week, 2 weeks. It could have been way worse, but my body definitely gave me a warning sign. And I took it upon myself to start stretching, give it some mobility, and I actually started researching what I could have done better. And that's where I came to understanding that it's one of the triggers today was those injuries. It's like, well, I don't have really anything else to process but an injury. That triggers me. I hate that I have an injury. And I found that I kept finding that, well, while that is an injury, it also is an opportunity to refine my lifting technique. And by refining my lifting technique, I can help others refine their technique. And as a coach, that makes it so that everyone wins. I become a better coach and an athlete becomes a better athlete. And while yes, it doesn't feel great, it's kind of humbling. It's, how did I get this injury? It makes me dial in and find the inaccuracies in my lift and become obsessive about perfecting it. And therefore, going back to the first premise that Tony Robbins talks about in that Netflix documentary, you could look at it, and it says, life is always happening for you. And so let's take a moment in our remaining time today and think about how life is always happening for us. Okay, in this particular situation, an injury to my shoulder, which is pretty much gone. It was actually popping every time I did that. The right one, the left one kind of popped a little bit, but I don't have pain there. The right one was having a little bit of popping issues, and I really had issues even going, like this was painful. It's still a little tight, but it is doing this kind of rotation, external rotation right there, was hurting me. And also my knee it's still not perfect, but they both bounced back about 98%. In this particular situation, the trigger was the injury, and it was annoying me. It's made me humble myself. It's made me rethink my technique. It's made me slow down. It's made me be more patient. It's made me more resilient. It's made me question, why did I let myself mess up? Why did I let my ego get in the way and go a little fast too soon? And so in that process, I've become a better trainer. I've become a better athlete. So in this particular case, life is always happening. This proves that life is always happening for us. Now, if I didn't analyze a trigger, if I didn't stack it, maybe that would have been an idea in there. Well, this allows me to be better. But there would have been also the other stories it's competing for. The other stories in our mind, that this story of becoming better, life's always happening for us, that's one story. As a matter of fact, I'm sure there's things in your life, because that is a consistent revelation I keep finding in my life. I'm sure there's things in your life that if you took a moment, you would see that whatever's pissing off right now is also making you often question your moves, question your ego, question your resilience, question your strength, question your will, question, reformulate, re-strategize, adapt. The challenge in your life is asking you to either step up or step down. And it is a test of sorts to see if you really will do what it takes to get to the next level. Life is always happening for you. Now, the victim mentality will get seduced to think, man, here's the other temptation. Here was my temptation. In other words, again, I am expanding something, dramatizing something to show you I didn't really have much triggered me in the last 24 to 48 hours, for sure. But this is significant enough pain in my body, physical pain in my body. And if I really took a moment to analyze the other story, here's the other story. So the story that I've selected is life's always happening for us. This is allowing me to become a better trainer, a better athlete, and help others more, and achieve goals faster, and dial in and become a better professional, and so everybody wins. My injuries make it so everybody wins. That's the story I've decided to expand and invest in and dial in on and create with. I'm using that story. Now, let's look at an opposing story so that we can start to see what a victim mentality might have, what a trigger may seduce us into buying. I can't believe it. I'm no good. This sucks. A professional would have not made that mistake. A professional would have not let that happen. A professional would be more patient. A professional should have done this. A professional should have done that. One of my friends used to say, hindsight is 20/20. In other words, should have, would have, could have, whatever. It's not the case. That's not reality. You can't do that anymore. What you could have, should have, would have is gone. That's why you're saying could have, would have, should have. A victim, though, a victim mentality is often going to buy the first story, the trigger story, often. More often than not, they're going to buy the triggered story. With enough processing, using the stack, this new tool, this new technique, Through the Warrior's Way by Garrett J. White, I'm analyzing triggers and getting to the point where the end game is like to create a lot of mastery with self. Now, I'm not going to, there's not an end point where like, yeah, you stacked enough, you're a master of triggers every day. However small the nuisance is, as a discipline, we stack it, we analyze it, we put it aside, we learn from it, and we pull out of the pain, out of the challenge, out of the test, out of the trigger, some insight and a revelation. Some common sayings are the drift is the gift, or the light is found in the night. Any case, this has been Jacob Adams talking to you about connecting the dots and getting ready to close up here. I want to take a moment to thank you, the viewer, for watching these videos. They come from my heart. It's one of the newer projects in my life that I've really dialed in on and put a lot of time and resources and research to get you some cutting edge information. A lot of this information is stuff that almost all of it is information that I use to get myself to the next level, and clients in my life to help them break through sometimes mental blocks that are holding them back. Usually what we discovered, and the big kind of takeaway for us as people, is that every element that is important to us affects us. We can sometimes build walls or overcompensate by seeming that we're islands unto ourselves, that nothing can stop us. And all that on some levels can buy us some time before the shit hits a fan and we realize we do want love, we do want connection, we do want sincerity. And so oftentimes we have to walk this earth with a level of humility, vulnerability, and strength, and in that mix be able to engage with the world. Yes, set boundaries so that we're not taken advantage of. Yes, be resilient so that we push through the challenges, the things that test our patience. And again, come back to the realization that every variable in our life, spirituality, love of our family, love of our partner, our loved ones, intimacy, love of our body and how we use it to express our strength, our art, and the career that we choose, all of the areas in our life that matter to us are intertwined and connected. Neither one is dancing onto itself. Each of these ships must sail the water with us, and us as the general or the captain of our own destiny, sail through the water and embrace the change, adapt, evolve, and keep going. And we will always be tempted to look at the challenge as the end, as that which breaks us. The champion, the warrior, looks at it as that which makes us. The beginning of this video talked about Tony Robbins and how he shared that life is always happening for you. Once you figure that out, it's game over. Thank you for listening. Your participation in these videos, your feedback, your sharing, your likes, your ideas, your thoughts, when they come from a sincere place, a sincere expression of yourself, are always welcome. This is Connecting the Dots, Volume 18. I'll be making Connecting the Dots once a week. It's more of a free flow format, not so structured as some of my other videos that have a topic that is centered around. Connecting the Dots will be more artistically flared and far more full of just a bam. It's almost unexpected. I don't ever have a template or an idea of where it's going. Maybe just one thought, or like a pebble in the water that is thrown into the pond and everything expands, and from that expansion comes the fruit, and from that we connect the dots. This is Jacob Adams. We'll see you next time.